Assalamu alaikum. I hope you've enjoyed our sessions so far today on business and leadership, athlete activism, and stories of inspiration. I've honestly been blown away by our speakers and the messages they've been able to share with us today. Let's keep the conversation going on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and share your learnings with us by using hashtag #MoreThanAMuslimAthlete to be in with a chance of winning some sport goodies. Okay, so we've got quite a mixed audience with us here this afternoon, and we welcome all of you. Now, before we get started with this conversation, please remember that this is an interactive session, and we would love to have questions from our audience as well. So please post them in the live chat, and we'll be answering questions at the end, but please get involved as we progress with the session. Okay, so my name is Leïla Kellou, and I'm the chair of the Muslim Women Sport Network Youth Committee and involved in leading this global summit this year. And I'm really, really pleased to be hosting this panel with our amazing guests, Haifa Tlili and Leïla Kellou. Okay, so without further delay, I'm going to introduce our fantastic speakers today as we look to learn more about Les Hijabeuses, activism and driving social change. Okay, so first of all, we have Dr. Haifa Tlili, who is a sociologist and researcher at Paris Descartes University. She applies a methodological framework in France using action research in order to co-construct recommendations by 4 different discriminated populations. Since 2019, she has provided platforms for the voices of French hijabi women to be heard and actively campaigned for their human rights and right to play football in France. Today, Haifa will be speaking about Les Hijabeuses Campaign to abrogate the Fédération Française de Football, along with the creation of Les Hijabeuses, and their organizing efforts in leading social change both offline and online. We are also joined by Leïla Kellou, who held a previous role as a sports social media manager for Canal+. She is currently studying Arabic at university and has been playing football for 4 years. She has felt excluded from the playing field for wearing the headscarf during competitions. She joined Les Hijabeuses last January in order to campaign for the lift of the FFF ban on hijab, as she believes every woman should be able to play football regardless of their beliefs. Okay, so we're going to play a short video now to give you a bit of a taster of what we'll be discussing today.
Au moment où je vous parle, en 2020, en France, pays dit des droits de l'homme, nous sommes des milliers de femmes à être privées de la liberté la plus simple qui soit. Pratiquer notre sport favori. Pas n'importe quel sport. En effet, l'un des sports les plus populaires au monde. Vous l'aurez compris, le football.
Pourquoi en sommes-nous privés? Parce que nous sommes des femmes.
Parce que nous sommes musulmanes.
Parce que nous portons le voile.
Parce que les arbitres de la FFF ne respectent pas notre choix, notre liberté de conscience, notre hijab.
Okay, so hopefully that gives you a bit of a taster of what we're going to be discussing today. So, Haifa, you're a sociologist using action research. Can you tell us a little bit about why you chose this particular career path?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's so good to tell these beautiful words. I really want to, first of all, to thank you for this invitation. It's so important for us to exist. And not only, the Hijabeuses, because it's the first and important voices, but also as a researcher. It's a new thematic in France. And we need sisterhood in that sphere. I'm now a sociologist at the VUB. I was in Paris Descartes more than 10 years, 15 years. And but now I decided to work in an intersectional laboratory. If I speak a little about me, maybe it's the first time I really speak about me, but I've always bathed in sports since I can remember. But very early on, I noticed certain differences between men and women, girls in my class, in my community, the others in my city, between France and Tunisia, between the north and the south of Tunisia, and also among Muslim women in the world. There are multiple determining moments that influence this will to do research. First of all, at 14 years old, my uncle pressured my family to have me stop dance and gymnastics. that was a part of my identity, my way of communicating. Stopping was very hard for me, and I didn't have any satisfying responses. Today I know that moment triggered my desire to understand the orders that Muslim women are subjected to in their bodies and in society, and to understand in what way Islam is or is not against sport practices. The second thing is, with my undergrad in social economics in the bag, it was obvious to me to go to the Université Paris Descartes to study sport. Very early, I taught multiple disciplines as a sport educator, but being one of only a few Muslim women in this program still raised a lot of questions for me. This made me want to do a master's thesis, and after that, a PhD around the Arabic Muslim culture who want to become sport educator. And thirdly, in 2008, despite having earned my PhD, I felt the need to continue my studies on pluralist feminist references with a focus on communities, something which is not allowed in France and which we did not yet have. I was able to have 2 years postdoctoral research contract at the Simone de Beauvoir Institute at Concordia University with Geneviève Rail, and I worked around the construction of the body, the representation, the discourses on women's health and obesity, and I was able to give North African immigrants the chance to speak. Once I got back to France, I definitely changed my approach to sociology by giving women whose voices are usually silenced the chance to take the floor. And that's why now, since 2019, I began a reflection on women who wear the hijab with the help of different NGOs like Fair Network and Women Win, but also with inspirational women like Shireen Ahmed. And since 2020, I've been working on this with the Hijabeuses campaign to better understand the problem, the arguments, the resistance, to deconstruct the false discourse, but also to ask leaders to do something about the FFF discriminatory policy.
That's amazing, Haifa. So you're not just doing the research, you're actually putting it into practice. You're actually, supporting other young girls like Leïla, who's on call today. So thank you. We'll come on to more of that a little bit later on. So Leïla, can you talk us through how you got involved in Les Hijabeuses and what is the aim of the campaign then? So you gave everyone a bit of a taster with the video. Can you just go through that?
Okay. So first, it's such an honor for me to have this conversation with you all today. To be honest, it's like a challenge for us because it's the first time we have a live session fully in English, but we'll try to do our best. So as you said during the introduction, I'm 29 years old and I'm currently a student in Arabic language at the university. And I've been practicing football for 4 years now. As a leisure. And I joined the Hijabeuses campaign last January to campaign for the lift of the FFF ban on hijab, as I've been excluded multiple times from the pitch for wearing sport headgear during the competitions. And just for you to have some context, I've been raised in a French-Algerian family where football is a sport that we watch together and play punctually. We are huge fans of Riyad Mahrez, if you hear us. So basically, when I realized that I should practice a sport for my health and for my personal development, I decided to join the new feminine football team that has been created in my city, and everything went well. I've been well integrated by my coaches, and everything was okay. I started to play the official games every Saturday with a Nike sport headgear, and again everything went well for several months, and we played game after game. But once we started to become competitive, we started to represent a threat for some opponents. So the exclusions from the pitch started. And what happened was that an opponent coach decided that what I was wearing, like the headgear, was a problem. And he said that it was not compliant with the outfit, and also that religious symbols were not allowed because of a so-called sport neutrality. And at that moment, I was shocked and felt a huge feeling of injustice. And after that first exclusion, I faced new ones. But I kept like attending the games and try to negotiate sometimes. Sometimes I couldn't play, sometimes I could play. And I also made my personal research to see if I was in my right. But I got rapidly discouraged as I thought that I was an isolated case. And I didn't have at that time the resources to go further and take actions. So basically, it's only 2 years later when I met Haifa, but by chance, in the framework of her research, that I got aware that it was a real issue that was concerning more women than I thought, and that we should organize to make a change. And at that moment, I felt empowered, and I realized that I was in my right, and I, as a first woman, as a first concerned woman, that we should take actions, you know, to try to make a change to happen.
No, yeah, thank you, Leïla, for giving that overview. So the idea that you are now using social media to get your voice out there is very powerful. Social media, we've just seen it, you know, within the Euros now, and how, you know, things can escalate. And it's a very effective way to campaign and get your voice heard. So you've just over 4,000 followers now on the Les Hijabeuses page. Why is campaigning important to you?
I can start. Or
you can start, Leïla. Yeah, of course.
So basically, campaigning online, especially in that context, is with the COVID-19, is important. The role of social media is essential in every campaign, especially nowadays, and it is important for us to campaign online for awareness. I mean, to make the issue exist in France, in the public sphere, but also to make it exist and resonate globally. It is important for us to feed, for example, our Instagram account regularly to update people with the progress of our actions. And we know that social media help us, you know, to connect with a broad range of people around the world and in France that are interested or concerned with the cause. And as we live in a world where the power of the image is central, it's important for us to share our stories with pictures, videos, to tell you know, our testimonies, and to educate people to the cause. And I think that strategically it's also important to campaign, especially online, to gain consistency and to make our voices heard by the FFF.
Yeah, and Haifa, do you want to come in and build on that?
Yeah, I think also it was very interesting to see how we construct the subject of our voice. And I said our because the fact that I'm doing action research, I'm really involved around them and listening them and sharing a lot of moment. And I'm also a Muslim woman, you know, I'm sensitive about this situation. But the fact that we, of course, the mobilization, it could be online, direct, indirect, and that's, you know, a very strong part of the community organizer, and also thanks to Alliance Citoyenne who helped us in that action. But the fact that I am doing an action research mobilization, this is, you know, this is not the, how do you say in French, this is not the visible tip of the iceberg. It's really, you know, invisible, deep, strong, and there is a big process of awareness, and also the fact that girls, they share their history, they build confidence all together, and slowly they start to understand what is mobilization in that, you know, in that context, because in France it's really violent, you know, and when you add the COVID situation, you add also a lot of stress and anxiety, and that's why it's our, you know, our own possibility, you know. We just have to organize ourselves with the media, but by another way that's really empower us to find solution, to be connected, to be confident also with the followers, and to be, yes, in confidence with them. And I'm sure that we receive a lot of messages. I know that there is around 50 messages per day of positive messages, maybe sometimes one negative, but it's the majority positive. And that's, it's the process of empowerment with this action research. But that's the point. When you open the door and you are free to speak, and you started to understand your own fear, and also you understand, the systematic breaks, slowly by slowly, you know how to show yourself. You know what is the most important issues for being connected with the others, and what is also the bad things to do. You're just learning. And I think that the process of research, action, mobilization was really helpful. And I will enter in that more later. But that's really the key, I think, of awareness and the will to share their experiences positively, and to share, women not only focusing on their veil, on the object, but really in action, fun in action. And that's what they want to share to the community.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's that confidence piece that's really important, especially when you're doing this work, because it can be draining, it can be tiring. But you were first, Leïla, a footballer before an activist, by being so passionate and wanting to be educated and wanting to learn more about the laws, legislation, and how you can, mobilize, like Haifa said. It's something that you've grown. So do you feel like you've stepped out of your comfort zone by, you were obviously just a footballer, and now you're entering into this kind of campaigning activism realm?
Yes, because it's demanding energy, and also you need to go out of your comfort zone to understand what is at stakes, and to be able to talk to the opponent teams, for example, to say that I'm going to deconstruct what you are saying, because I'm in my right. At the beginning, I felt inside that I was in my right, but I didn't have the terminology, the terms, to defend my right to play. But after all the meetings, the interviews with inspirational personalities that have kind of an experience or an expertise in those discrimination issues in France, it helped us, not master, but have the good arguments to speak up and to try to make a change, and to make the debate evolve.
Absolutely. So would you class yourself as an activist then? Because this is really interesting for me around what you're doing now. I would say you're being an activist, but what do you think? Would you say that you are, you were a social media manager, and now would you say, what's your role now?
So basically, I was not intending for being a so-called activist, but the circumstances pushed me into that position. Like it or not, what we are doing is activism, because we are campaigning to bring about a change. But it takes time to realize it, because we are learning through the journey step by step. And I think that at a personal level, I'm still not fully comfortable with the activist label, as it is kind of putting more pressure than there is already. And I prefer to consider that I'm simply trying to make a contribution, because it is, I think it is a responsibility and a duty as a first concerned woman but also as a French citizen, to speak up, to tell our stories in order to make a change happen in the future for us, but also for the future generations. It takes energy to go out, educate yourselves, to understand your rights, because knowledge is power. But it's also challenging and important if you want to experience a real change in the long run, and to achieve our main objective, that is the lift of the FFF ban on hijab during the competitions.
Brilliant. You mentioned French Muslim, but before you mentioned you have Algerian roots. I'm interested to see how you identify yourself in France. Do you identify yourself as part of the Algerian community or as a French Muslim woman?
I think it's kind of a difficult question, because we are in a society where we are told to define ourselves by only one, dimension. Either you are French or either you are Algerian. And I decided, and I think that those exclusions helped me realize that I can assume myself as being French, but also Algerian. I'm not, I'm not ashamed, to have those roots, and it's a pride also for me. And I'm both. My mom is French with Algerian roots. My father is an Algerian, fully Algerian father. But I've been raised here, so I have les codes are. So I'm French, yes, and I'm ashamed when I see that we can be excluded. I think it's incoherent with the French motto, like liberty, equality, fraternity. So yeah, I'm proud to be French, but also to be Algerian. It's part of my identities, and we all have multiple identities. So yeah.
Brilliant, thank you, Leïla. And Haifa, you have Tunisian roots. I'd be keen to kind of hear from you as well on this topic.
Yeah, the question of identity is something like a big mensonge. It's we don't have to speak about one identity. Who is the person who speaks about one identity? You have to be, rigid, homogeneous, in a box, and that's what we've learned with feminists, intersectional, post-colonialist, post-structuralist references. Is we are moving. We are always moving, and that's that's the part of the beauty of the identity. And when you know that, when you see that, you are more comfortable with yourself, and also you accept some paradoxical situation, But this is the richness of our identity. For myself, it's really with my doctorate, with my PhD, that I realized that I'm more than only French. And I'm really proud to be Tunisian and to see also the south of Tunisia. It's something very important for me. And also I realized my own identity as a French when I was outside in Canada. People see me as a French, of course, with roots Maghrebians, and they're really, they really want to listen to me about that. You don't have to invisibilize my background. But I was so surprised by all this welcome question. And that's why when I returned to France, I after my postdoc, I was, have to deal with this anger, because it's, it's a kind of hypocrisy of different concepts like integration, identity, secularism. It's so important. Values, Republican values, it's so important, but we have to work with it. We have to redefine it, and it's not just a word. It's more complex.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. So where has this I think I'm echoing. Where has this fear of the hijab stemmed from, and how helpful was the recent social media campaign hashtag hands off my hijab or hashtag touche pas à mon hijab in response to the separatism bill? Begin to kind of understand, if you can help the audience understand this kind of fear, where's it really stemmed from?
Haifa, you can go for it.
Yeah, I go for it. I'm just, thinking about which which way I'm presenting, because of course we can speak a little about the history of colonialism, and especially in Algeria, with different kind of ceremony of die Welt. This is I think the most important heritage that influence our own subjectivity around veil, hijab, foulard. There's so many words, but we don't know exactly which one is good for ourselves. And but after that, there is of course in around the first case in France, it was around the end of 18th, and we have two sisters, and it was interesting that it was a mix between Jewish and French, and there were the hijab, and they really want to wear the hijab at school. But at that time, you have different crises in the world, and of course that influence the fear of the French government. Maybe the most important is, la chute du mur de Berlin, the wall in Berlin. That's traumatized a little, because you don't have the reference between the East and the West. And after that, in Algeria, with of course the different events in connection with terrorist, Islamic, and very hard to see and to live. And I think that all these images, and also the impact of immigrants, Algerian immigrants, the fear on the French population, that's of course crystallized by a way some difficulties. But and of course the 11 September, the 9th 11 of 2000, and that's a really hard moment. But how it's the past, and now we are really part of the population. We are French. We are a mix of different kind of things. That's okay. That's the beauty of the identity. But we are always see us like, a terrorist, potential terrorist, potential, Islamist. It's negative. We spoke about Christianist, Judaist, but when we spoke about Islam and Islamist, it's directly negative. And that's, it's the context, of course, but also we didn't receive any help from the feminists, white dominant feminists, because they didn't listen us, they didn't know us, they didn't share a moment with us, and they just focusing on the veil, and just for being short, because I think it's maybe the key, the politician before every election. And that's why now we have this issue around the hijab, because next year we have the presidential election. Always we return on that subject, always. And always we return on what is the French identity. And that's, we are just manipulating different politician issues. But now, slowly by slowly, we take voices and we impose our point of view, and we influence also a lot. And maybe that's the change.
Yeah, so the past is in the past, and we can't do anything about that now. And we have wonderful women like you, Haifa and Leïla, with us today, who are, involved now. You're trailblazers in my eyes in France, leading the way. You're inspiring not only yourselves, but you're inspiring young girls who are going to look up to you as role models, who can then follow in your path going forward. So no, that's really, really helpful, just to get that background. So you mentioned a little bit about this before, but this campaign is obviously much bigger than lifting the hijab ban. Can you explain why this campaign is important for society as a whole and Muslim women?
Yeah, maybe Leïla, you can speak about your own experience, but and after that I can add.
Yeah, sure. I think that campaigning is important because first, as I said before, it's a responsibility if we want to a real change to happen in the long run, and if we want to build, the living together, and if we want to make society together. And as first concerned voices, we cannot let things like that because it's weakening, the foundations of our societies. I mean that as French citizens, we are meant to act on a daily basis for a more integrated and fair society. So campaigning is not just for lifting the ban, but it's a matter of, justice. And it's also important for the coming generations. It's a matter like of principle, and I mean that on a personal level. I just want to play if I want, but I'm not aiming at becoming a professional female soccer. Like as I said before, I'm playing as a leader, football as a leader, but I just want to practice, to have this right, because it is a right to practice a sport. And I would say that it's important, to not to let things like that, because there are some women and girls that have those hopes on becoming, the next Nadia Nadim, or, or having a career in the soccer field. And if we are not campaigning, if we are not taking the responsibility of campaigning now, we are weakening, the future of those generations. And I think it's important to prevent the future girls from facing the same issues.
Absolutely, and this kind of solidarity and togetherness that comes out of campaigning, you're able to kind of allow that to grow and grow even more. So Haifa, do you want to come in on that around? It's not just the hijab ban, it's what else is it doing for Muslim women in France?
Yeah, it's really more than that. It's feminist issues. Who is the person who decided for the body of any woman, and that's that's also the misunderstanding in 2004 when the government decided to create a law on the scarf, and they decided to non-authorized girls in secondary school to go with the hijab. That provoke a reflection around what is the symbol, what is the consequences, and even if it was hard because it's our heritage also, but it was really good to slowly integrate any feminists who want really to empower women and to open eyes, not only focusing on their own experience as a white woman, but also in the diversity of women. That's I think it's a long run, and but that's a point of a feminist very important. The name is Christine Delphi, and she said that the majority of the people don't want to stand to stand because they don't understand the arguments, and that's the majority. And the majority also think that if they decide or choose for or not the hijab, it's because they have to decide for fighting sexism or fighting racism, and it's for them it's just not really clear that they have to decide it. But with the active mobilization and the fact that we give voices, we listen to Muslim women, we live with them, and we see the convergence of the fight, slowly by slowly, any people, white or not, Muslims or not, they feel that we are connected in the same issues. And especially now with the government who private different rights, you have different kind of tension with the Gilets jaunes and all the rights government. They really push pressure on the citizens, and we see that the democracy, it's something very fragile, and we have to be more conscious of that, and that's why activism it was not our first objective. Maybe we don't have any I don't have a lot of activists around me. I have some, but probably not a lot in comparison of you or someone else. And I think this campaign also pushed us to invite some inspirational people and understand why it's important nowadays to do that. And that's why we invite jurists, lawyer, advocate, and also some deputy and people who are really active in the society. We don't have to accept silence. We don't have accept. It's not a good point, you know, for any people. The silence, it's not good. If you have something to say and you're not, you know, you feel that your freedom of living, it's perturbed. You have to organize yourself, and you have to, show your right, you know, and provoke a change positively for yourself and also for the community in general.
And I think it's a matter also of coherence, because you know, when you see that the FFF is claiming and is promoting an inclusive football for everyone, for every woman, and that we are evicted from the pitch, I think it's a duty, you know, to point out this hypocrisy and the incoherence of the positions of the FFF, that is like claiming that they are feminizing the French amateur football, but it's frustrating when you see that on the pitch it's in total contradictions, you know, with the official positions. So I think, campaigning is a duty, but also a responsibility, for the future and for matters of justice and principle.
They manipulate, by a way, they manipulate us. They didn't want to see Muslim women at all. We know that there is some case since maybe 10 years. We know that there is some cases, but no one want to open this box. No one. And that's the first, I think, the first mistake. And secondly, when you see the secularism, that's, you know, a power word. We are really proud of that. But we understand now, what does it mean, secularism? And secularism, it's not against the diversity of the population. It's with the diversity of the population. And that's why we are more active in that, because we know that we are in the good way. If we are pushing the FFF, we will change positively, not only the first federation of France, the most powerful, maybe the most sexist and racist, by a way, because there is no racism in football, you know, there is no racism in football. And that's, you know, a very strange reaction to not accept the situation. Of course, there is racism everywhere and also in football, but just to push the responsible in their responsibility and really to respect the principle of the Republic. And we are very proud of that. And we are not, you know, we are not separatism. They create the separatism. They create it. We really want, and I say we, because as a Muslim, I don't know, maybe in the future I will, you know, wear the hijab. I don't know, you know, you don't know what's happening in the future. We have to act, to respect any identity. And if you want to play, you have the right to play. And that's all. And that's why I think the challenge is that not manipulate us with our activism. We push the FFF to analyze their own document and to see in the document that they authorized the woman to wear accessories such as bandana or hats, which can be worn for different reasons, can be worn if they are not accompanied by any proselytism and if they comply with safety or hygiene rules. It's in the document, the last document official. What we don't need to negotiate now. It's in our right, you know. But even with that, people, they are not trained in secularism. And FFF need us to train not only the actors, but also public opinion. We have to change the French population. That's the responsibility of an institution paid by the French government. That's a shame.
Yeah, and it always looks like men policing women's bodies and how women don't get a say in what they want to wear, and that is, you know, damaging for confidence, self-esteem, and just basic human rights. So we've got some comments in the chat. You know, Shireen and Fitria saying sports for all, but yet people are so quickly to say you're not allowed to play because of hijab. And, you know, football should be accessible to all levels, recreational or professional. And that's totally true. You know, sport should be inclusive, and it looks like France are, you know, going backwards instead of forwards. So, you know, we're not being progressive with this. Okay, so over the years, gender roles have changed, and women like yourself, you're not merely taking on the role of a housewife, but you're navigating spaces dominated by white men. In order to create change, we have to identify people in power and those who have influence and get them to understand where we're coming from. So how have you found reaching out to people like ministers in France, and are you finding that they're open to becoming educated on the experiences of hijabi women? So it'd be interesting to hear, like, what kind of conversations have you had at a higher level to kind of push this movement forward? Maybe Haifa or Leïla, anyone?
Your mic, Haifa.
It's okay, don't worry. Yeah, Leïla, do you want to come in while we're waiting for Haifa? Any kind of conversations that you've had?
I'm sorry, it's so messy, too many pages, and I think, you know, not to cut you, Leïla, but the strategy, it was not really a strategy. It was not, you know, at the beginning, it was not an activist research. Of course, when you give voices, first of all, to women who are concerned by discrimination, by violence, by messy arguments, and with them, you decided to, you know, open books, open, you know, law references, and just read the references. After this moment, they change totally. They are more powerful. But the change, we can provoke a change also when we do the same work with the sports actors, like referees, coaches, responsible leaders in club, because they were built in this messy discourses. It's not important. Muslims women, they're nothing. They're not visible. They don't want to see as visible, and they're dehumanized. That's, you know, it's not important. And the fact that you discuss with them, and you open boxes with them, and you see the references, they change, and they transform with real allies. They really want to help us, and really to push forward this subject. What we realized, and of course, the main argument for the referees is, of course, who I am to exclude women. Who I am. Of course, I see that it's not proselytism. I see that it's, you know, Muslims. It's internal. But she is a sporty woman. She won't play, and I have normally, for the beauty of the game, I don't have to exclude her. But slowly by slowly, they say that, but I'm afraid. I'm afraid if I have, you know, comment on peut appeler ça, un évaluateur, un contrôleur. How do you say that in English? Like someone who control from the FFF, who control the referees. And he starts to be afraid of his own career, to not be paid, for instance, and not really, you know, like the beauty of values and principle of Republicans' values. And that's what we see, that we change the objective, and we don't want that. We really want to focus in the good references. And when we know that, and also we know that the coaches and especially the leaders of club, they don't want to to take the folder to the FFF, because if they spoke too much, the FFF will say to them, oh. Or maybe it's not that. The reality is that they are afraid to not receive any funds, you know, and it's for economical reasons. It's not for human rights. It's not for rights. It's manipulation, and they didn't take their responsibility. They just invisibilize, like there is nothing, no problem, everything is beauty. The football is, there is no racism, and every woman have the right to play, and we have the feminist, you know, the feminization of football. But what is the reality? That's what we want to show, you know. And but for the next strategy, it's with that kind, with these results, we can speak with any deputy, ministry, politics about this issue, because it's unfair. And we vote, we paid for that, you know, we paid for this, you know, legitimate, you know, we have the right to be in any place to play, and we pay for that. And when we spoke like that, of course, they are really sad to see the consequences on the psychological issues, the body also, you know, their anxiety, deprime, and they, you know, prennent du poids. They are really, they imbalance their psychological mental health. Of course, they are little sad about that. But to see that the institutions are not so strong and not really responsible for us, that's not a good point. And that's what we want to share with the responsible and ministry and deputy.
Yeah, and it's always, someone's put it in the chat, it's always the people in these organizations that are at the top, are they reflective of your community? So we don't have many Muslim women directors or on the board of governors, in, you know, on boards. They're not in powerful positions, and we haven't seen that, you know, progression up the career ladder, so to say. So we're not going to see, you know, change quickly if we haven't got those allies. But you do have some allies in Les Hijabeuses. Do you want to just talk about who they are and how they're supporting the work that you're doing?
Yeah, Les Hijabeuses, they were really a strong, you know, association. They really want to, because they understand, you know, they understand what is the impact of any ban, any stigmatization for their own, you know, well-being. And I think they're really powerful, not only because they understand, not only for that, even if they're not, you know, maybe they're not religious at all, and they didn't, you know, any faith. It's not a problem, but they understand us in their own body, and also the sisterhood. They understand also what does it mean, the sisterhood, and we are fighting the same patriarchal system, and what is a good woman, what is a, you know, a beauty, and that's what they want to destroy, by the way. But the Hijabeuses, the very interesting thing, and I really want to thank all the Hijabeuses, but also Cacahuète Sluts and others LGBTQI+ association, because they tweet for us, and you know how it's powerful if someone else tweet for you and represent you. And that's another good point, because activist is a strong word, and it's also a strong word because we are afraid about, you know, it's a hard moment, it's a violent moment, Islamophobic violent moment, and we don't need harassment, cyber harassment, we don't need that. But Hijabeuses, they are really experienced, and they, you know, they do this job, by the way, for us. And if there is anything, we know that they will hear for us. And that's, you know, this is not really direct, but they feel us, they understand us, and also they are more implicated in activist actions, and we have to learn from them. And we have a tete-a-tete in few days, kind of head-to-head with them, like a very secure discussion, and we will learn a lot of things with them. And we're really proud to be with them in the same journey.
Yeah, honestly, the allies and people that can support you on your journey, or you can learn from each other. There's nothing more valuable than that. And like we mentioned before, social media is very powerful, and you know, it's a brilliant way to get that message out there, because sometimes it can be, you know, just in your own circle, but getting the message out there is powerful. Getting the retweets, the likes, and the shares are very, very impactful. So.
Can I add just something about the politicians? The fact that now we are powerful, we understand, you know, the rules and also the manipulate arguments. We go with, you know, different documents and we ask them to play with us. Okay, come play with us. Just share this moment, understand us. And they are really, not, of course, not all the deputy, but a group of deputies, they're ready for that. And we were 100% sure that that will be decisive for us and for them also to understand what's happened when you are hijabi. You are just a sporty woman like the others, and maybe more competitive than them, you know. And that's this kind of moment we want to provoke. And yeah, with politicians, why not?
Yeah. Absolutely. When these politicians are in positions of leadership, sometimes they're not keen to show their vulnerability and are afraid to ask questions because they want to be seen to know it all, and they're maybe too proud to admit they're wrong, I guess. And it needs people like yourselves to say, wait, hang on a minute. Let's have an open and honest conversation about this, and let's see how we can come to an agreement. So I'm just really interested in, what do you keep in mind then when you're having these difficult conversations with people that might not be on the same kind of wavelength as you? Because there's probably, you know, people tuning into this call live and may watch it back later who might be doing their own campaigns in their own communities. And what kind of tips can you give to help, I guess, you know, have those difficult conversations? What do you need to keep in mind?
I think that when having you know, difficult conversation, we try to do our best to keep in mind, you know, the initial intentions, what we are doing, that, and because it is like as the basis of everything. And we try to be in a position where we are listening and truly listening to what the other side has to say, because it is important. It's an important basis for a constructive exchange. And we try, you know, to work on ourselves to see if maybe the message is not, you know, 100% clear. So we try, you know, to to question also ourselves in the process. And speaking of advices, honestly, I don't have that much of advices to give, because we are learning, you know, step by step. And what is driving us is, you know, this needs of justice, and the fact that injustice needs to be addressed. Otherwise, we risk, you know, to weaken the foundations of our society.
Yeah, thank you, Leïla. Haifa, do you want to build on that around how, because you've been doing this work for a very long time now, how you're tackling these difficult conversations, and what your top tips are?
Yeah, we just, you know, slowly by slowly. We are not, you know, the target. It's not directly the most opposite person. No, we slowly by slowly involved with maybe the most, you know, around us, maybe the potential allies, and slowly by slowly we understand the arguments. We also habit to speak about our own discrimination, and we are able to also exchange, because the key point is the communication. But the communication, when you are silenced, dehumanized, you are a little angry first, and you don't understand. And that's the point. It's, first of all, know exactly who you are, where you are, what you want. And when you have all these keys, you can, starting slowly by slowly, open doors and contact, you know, potential allies, and learning from them, and slowly by slowly construire une espèce de toile, you know, a big network of allies. But the other thing, it was very important, I think, to really assure them that it's totally secure, totally, you know, nothing, it's not in public, it's not on social media, it's really human to human. And that's the key. The second key is just to be really honest and to respect that, and to be kind. To be kind. We don't have, you know, sometimes it's complicated and we have to listen to the complication. For instance, I don't want to name anyone, but you said that women in power position, of course it's complicated for them because it's in a patriarchal situation. Maybe she fight a lot, and we have to understand that, and we have to say to her, we understand that, and on prendra jamais de but that's the key. It's also to be transparent and to share. That's the first point. If you have that, the people in front of you say that, can understand that we can speak, we can learn from each other, and we'll see what's happened, but we can learn from each other.
No, you've been given messages that Ebru was speaking about this morning, and it was really powerful when she said what really matters when you're progressing in, you know, this leadership role that you're in is kindness and, you know, building those relationships. So, you know, it's brilliant that you're on the same page there and you're reflecting the same things, because, you know, you're having these difficult conversations. Someone will choose silence or violence, and you really actually want to unpack that and make sure that you're having an honest and open conversation in a safe environment, and that's the best way, with that transparency. So no, I'm really that's really interesting. Amazing. Okay, so obviously we're coming a little bit to a close now. I just want to understand, the people that we have with us today are, you know, from around the world, and some will be tuning in later to watch the recording, but how can the audience now get involved to support the work you're doing with Les Hijabeuses, and what can we do? How can we mobilize in our own communities and you know, advocate for human rights in France and support the work that you're doing? What can you say to us?
Leïla.
Yeah, I think that every support is welcome, you know, from sharing our stories online to bringing us your international support by, for example, mentoring us, or if you have a consistent experience in that field, or at least, you know, getting in touch with us to create safe spaces of discussion, to get inspired, and, you know, to be inspired in order for us to improve our strategies to reach the final goal of our campaigns. So if you want to add something, Haifa.
Yeah, we have different possibilities. The first one is we have a petition now, national petition. It's really important to have the firm of any people who want to be with us. But of course, we will open this petition internationally, and that's the first thing. The second thing is, we think that we need an hashtag, and any woman to show that Muslim women with a hijab, they can be a really good football player, and we need to visibilize, rehumanize this subject. You know, it's not only the subject of veil, but it's emotion, it's power, it's a pleasure, it's in any place in the world want to take a picture of herself playing football or you know, with the ball. That's really great, really great. But we will explain this this campaign maybe in few weeks, probably after the summer. The third thing is, of course, we need powerful leaders in of course in sports sectors, but also in, I don't know, in business, in academics, any woman, any man who want to be involved and think with us, help us. I don't want to open in the funding subject because it's it's the core of the campaign. In France, we don't have this subject as it's not a dominant subject, and we need to develop this subject academically, scientifically, and that need funds. And I think that's visibility and solidarity and sisterhood, and contact us, the Hijabeuses, by email, Leïla or me, and just start to think about what can we do, what can we do for resonate this issue so important. Play anyone the right to play, to have fun.
Amazing. No, there's some really good takeaways there. And obviously once that you release the petition for us to get involved in and sign, and their details are on there. Please give them a follow on their Instagram. I think we can get Nida in the background to put it up on screen. Stay connected with them and stay up to date, and get involved. It's the most we can do is show our support and solidarity. So this just final question now to wrap up. What's the long-term goal then for you both, career-wise, and for Les Hijabeuses? So we'll go Leïla first. So what do you want to do in your career going forward, and what's the future for Les Hijabeuses?
I think that for the Hijabeuses is obviously the lift of the ban, and pass the torch to the next generations. If we face new, obstacles or something like that. And at a personal level, I'm still figuring out what will be next for me. But I'm trying, to train myself and develop new languages in order to work in my field, with different languages, and why not, covering the next FIFA World Cup that will be for the first time in an Arab-speaking country. So, I'm still trying, and but the most important is, I think, to seek for coherence in every part of my personal and professional life. So,
Really good. And you'll be singing 1, 2, 3, Viva l'Algérie all the way there. And Haifa, what's the future? What do you want to do?
Yeah, for the Hijabeuses is really to now be able to produce role models and leaders. And it's not only, in our group, no, really, that you see a hijabi and you say that, I want to be like her, and you don't see the hijab. That's the first goal. I think it's really accessible, and to set up an NGO around the empowerment, leadership, Muslims, women, or not, women who want to play, but in the diversity, in respect of the diversity. And I think it's also to maybe to develop a new field of study in France. And if I have the possibility to resonate more the voices of women, I will be very happy to work with hijabis in a podcast in France. We have some, but we don't have lots, and we need more. We need more, And that's all. Maybe some other things, but I think it's correct. This goal is correct. We can do it.
Amazing. Well, I'll look forward to seeing this NGO.
Inshallah.
I wish you both the best with future careers. I know we're going to stay in touch, and hopefully when I'm not even been to France, and I'm literally in the UK, so there's no excuse. When le confinement is over, COVID restrictions, hopefully we can come and see the great work that you're doing over there. But that is it now. We're at a close, so that's all we have time for today. So remember, you can keep connected with the work we're doing at Muslim Women in Sport Network through this YouTube channel, Instagram community at Muslim Women Sport Network, Twitter at Muslim Win Sport, and our new website by that the fantastic Nida has been putting together at www.mwisn.org, and she's been fantastic today. So I just want to make sure that, you know, we give Nida a shout out, been doing all the fabulous tech, making sure everything's working behind the scenes. And I'd just like to thank our fantastic speakers for their insights and for taking the time out of their precious schedules to spend some time with us. And finally, thank you all for joining us today, wherever you are in the world and whatever your time zone. So today's final session is going to be on athlete activism, and that's taking place at 6 till 7 p.m. UTC time, or 7 till 8 p.m. London time. This is a one-on-one chat with Zainab Alima and Shireen Ahmed from our executive committee. Will be moderating that one. Please do adjust your time zones and check out the Muslim Women's Sport Network website for further information on all the scheduled summit schedule for the rest of the weekend. And assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum al-kull.